If you look closely at the faces of the generals standing behind Donald Trump this morning, you don't see loyalty. You see fear. You see men who know they are witnessing a mistake that cannot be fixed with a tweet. Because what happened today wasn't just a diplomatic spat. It wasn't a trade dispute over milk or lumber. It wasn't even about the border. Today, the President of the United States looked at the country that has fought beside America in every major war for 100 years, and he told them to get out. But he didn't stop at the politics. If he had just torn up a treaty, we could call it business as usual. But Trump had to make it personal. He had to make it painful. In a rant that is already being scrubbed from conservative media sites, Donald Trump didn't just attack Canada's economy, he attacked their dead. He insulted 457 fallen soldiers, men and women who died wearing a maple leaf on their shoulder but taking orders from American commanders. Soldiers who bled into the sand of Kandahar so that American soldiers could come home. And when the news hit Ottawa, something changed. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, didn't scream. He didn't rage. He didn't go on TV and call names. He simply walked to a podium, adjusted the microphone, and read a single name from a piece of paper. And in that moment, the special relationship between the United States and Canada died. In the next 40 minutes, I'm going to take you inside the room where it happened. I'm going to show you the leaked Pentagon memos that prove the US military is panicking right now. I'm going to show you exactly how Canada, quiet, polite Canada, just put its hand on the throat of the American energy grid. And I'm going to tell you why, for the first time in history, the United States is alone in North America. Buckle up, because the map just changed. Let's go back to 8 a.m. this morning. It started with a question that should have been easy. A reporter from a wire service asked Trump about the stalled negotiations on the Arctic defense budget. It's a boring topic. It's usually about icebreakers and radar stations. But Trump was already angry. Sources say he had just come out of a briefing where his advisors told him he needed Canada. They told him the northern flank was vulnerable. And you know how Trump reacts when he's told he needs someone. He resents them. So he walks out to the chopper and he explodes. He says, "Canada is a security risk. They are free riders. I'm suspending their Tier 1 clearance. They are out of the room." That was shock number one. Tier 1 clearance is the highest level of trust in the Western world. It's what lets a Canadian general sit in Colorado Springs at NORAD and decide if a nuclear missile is incoming. It's the two eyes of the Five Eyes alliance. Trump just blinded one of those eyes. But then the reporter pressed him. She said, "Mr. President, Canada invoked Article 5 after 9/11. They went to war for us. 158 of them died in Afghanistan. Doesn't that count for something?" And this is the moment that history will remember. Trump laughed. You can see it in the footage. He smirks, waves his hand dismissively and says, "They didn't fight for us. They fought for a participation trophy. I looked at the numbers. 457 guys. That's a bad weekend in Chicago. We don't owe them for bad strategy. It was a bad deal." He called 457 fallen soldiers a bad deal. He called the sacrifice of an entire nation a participation trophy. He wasn't talking about tariffs. He was talking about blood. Now imagine you are a Canadian mother in Saskatchewan who lost her son in 2008 in a roadside bomb intended for a US convoy. You are watching your TV, and the commander-in-chief of the alliance is laughing at your son's death. The reaction in Ottawa wasn't political. It was primal. Within 10 minutes, the hashtag number 4457 was trending worldwide. But it wasn't just bots. It was photos. Thousands of photos of Canadian soldiers carrying American soldiers. Photos of coffins draped in flags, travelling down the highway of heroes. And inside the White House, The phones started ringing, and they haven't stopped. While Twitter was exploding, a different kind of explosion was happening at the Pentagon. You need to understand something that Trump doesn't. Geography is not a negotiation. The United States has a massive gaping vulnerability. It's called the North. If Russia or China ever decides to launch a strike, nuclear, hypersonic, or conventional, it comes over the North Pole. It comes over the Arctic. And guess whose land they have to fly over before they hit America? Canada. For 60 years, the US has relied on a string of radar stations, listening posts, and forward operating bases located deep in the Canadian Arctic. This is the North Warning System. When Trump said, "Get them out of the room," he didn't just hurt feelings, he triggered a legal collapse. We have obtained a leaked memo receipt, one circulating among the Joint Chiefs of Staff this afternoon. The subject line is simply Operational Blackout Northern Sector. The memo warns that if Canada retaliates by restricting US access to these northern bases, the United States loses 40% of its early warning detection capability. 40%. That means if a hypersonic missile is launched, we see it 15 minutes later than we usually would. In nuclear war, 15 minutes is the difference between intercepting the missile and losing New York City. Trump thinks he holds all the cards because America has the nukes, but Canada holds the binoculars, and you can't shoot what you can't see. By noon today, reports confirmed that Canadian officers at NORAD headquarters in Colorado were packing their boxes. These are men and women who have sat shoulder to shoulder with Americans for decades. One U.S. Air Force colonel, speaking on condition of anonymity, told a reporter, "It felt like a divorce, where the dad kicks the mum out, but forgets she has the keys to the car. We are locked out of our own defense network." This is the chaos Trump created. He traded national security for a soundbite. And while he was bragging about being tough, the Russian Air Force was undoubtedly watching, taking notes, and preparing to test exactly how blind we just became. Now, let's look at the other side of the board. Mark Carney is not a politician in the way Trump is a politician. Trump is a branding expert. Carney is a central banker. Trump deals in emotion. Carney deals in risk. Carney ran the Bank of England. He ran the Bank of Canada. He stabilizes economies for a living. He knows exactly where the pressure points are. When the news of the insult broke, everyone expected Carney to yell. Everyone expected a fiery speech about patriotism. Instead, he went to the War Museum in Ottawa. He stood in front of the tomb of the unknown soldier. He didn't mention Trump's name. He didn't mention the trade war. He simply said to the families of the 457, "Your sacrifice purchased the freedom of two nations. If our neighbor has forgotten the price of that freedom, then we must remind them of its value." And then he dropped the hammer. Carney announced, "Operation Sovereign North." It sounds like a military drill. It's not. It's an economic siege. Receipt 2. The energy audit. Effective immediately, the Canadian government has initiated a national security review of all energy exports destined for the United States. Carney used the exact same legal language Trump uses. He said, "We need to ensure our energy is not supporting a hostile foreign entity." Let's translate that for you. Quebec provides the electricity that powers New York City and Boston. Alberta provides the heavy crude oil that refineries in Texas need to function. U.S. refineries are built for heavy oil. They can't run on the light oil Texas produces without mixing it. They need Canada. Carney didn't turn off the tap. That would be an act of war. He just tightened it. He ordered inspections, environmental reviews, pipeline safety checks. Within 1 hour of Carney's speech, the flow of oil into the Midwest dropped by 15%. The spot price of electricity in New England jumped 400%. Carney is showing Trump the difference between loud power and real power. Trump screams on Twitter. Carney quietly reaches into your house and dims the lights. He is betting that the American people, and specifically the American donors who pay Trump's bills, will feel the pain in their wallets long before Canada feels the pain of the insult. Economic pain is one thing, but Trump has lost something today that he can't buy back. He lost the warrior, class. Look at your timeline. It's not just liberals who are angry. It's Marines. It's Green Berets. It's the guys who have "Don't Tread on Me" stickers on their trucks. They are furious. Why? Because when you are in a firefight in the Arghandab Valley, nobody asks if you are Canadian or American. You just bleed the same color. We found a video from a former US Army sniper that is going viral right now. He's sitting in his truck holding a picture of himself with a Canadian unit. He says, "Mr. President, in 2010, I was pinned down. I was out of ammo. The guys who came to get me were the Royal Canadian Regiment. They lost a man that day getting me out. You just spit on his grave. You don't speak for me anymore." This is the receipt 3 that terrifies the White House. The Pentagon isn't just a building, it's a culture. And that culture is built on honor. By mocking the dead of an ally, Trump has violated the code of the very people he expects to salute him. We are hearing reports of resignations at the State Department. We are hearing about blue flu sickouts among Border Patrol agents who refuse to harass Canadian drivers. Trump is fighting a war on 2 fronts now. One against Mark Carney, and one against the conscience of his own military. While Washington and Ottawa are screaming at each other, do you know who is celebrating? Moscow and Beijing. For 20 years, Russia has been trying to break the North American alliance. They have tried spies, they have tried cyber attacks, they have tried propaganda, but they never succeeded. The bond was too strong. Today, Donald Trump did for Vladimir Putin what Putin could never do for himself. He shattered the shield. Receipt 4, the Russian bomber flight. Just 2 hours ago, NORAD, which is now operating in chaos, detected 4 Russian Bear bombers approaching the Alaskan Air Defense Identification Zone. Usually, US and Canadian jets would scramble together to intercept them. It's a choreographed dance. They do it every month. But today, confusion. Who launches? Are the Canadians authorized? To share the tracking data? Is the encrypted link active? The bombers turned back before they entered airspace. But the message was clear. Russia was testing the door handle, and they found it unlocked. Meanwhile, China just released a statement. It was short and polite. It invited Prime Minister Carney to Beijing next week to discuss stability and rare earth minerals. This is the nightmare scenario. If Canada pivots away from the US, they don't just disappear. They go somewhere else. Canada has the uranium. Canada has the lithium. Canada has the water. If Carney decides that the US is an unreliable partner and he signs a trade pact with Europe or Asia to replace the American market, the US loses its resource backyard. Trump thinks he is isolating Canada. In reality, he is isolating America. He is turning the fortress North America into a house divided against itself. You might be sitting there thinking, I don't care about geopolitics. I just want gas prices to stay down. Well, I have bad news for you. The US economy is an engine. Canada is the oil. You don't notice the oil until it's gone and the engine seizes. Here is what happens in the next 72 hours if this isn't fixed. 1. The auto industry. A car built in Detroit crosses the border 7 times before it is finished. Parts go back and forth. If the border slows down because of security checks, the factories in Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee stop. Ford and GM have already issued internal warnings about critical supply chain failure. 2. The food supply. Canada is the largest export market for American farmers. If Carney decides to slap a retaliatory tariff on American milk, corn, or beef, or if he just finds sanitary concerns to block them, American farmers lose billions overnight. 3. Inflation. We are already fighting inflation. Now imagine if the cost of lumber, aluminum, and energy goes up by 20% because Trump wanted to make a point. This isn't just about politics. This is a tax on your life. Every time Trump insults an ally, the risk premium on being an American goes up. Companies stop investing, contracts get cancelled. The world starts looking for alternatives to the dollar. Carney knows this. That's why he's so calm. He knows that math always wins against rhetoric. He is waiting for the American stock market to force Trump's hand. So, where does this end? The clock is ticking. Scenario A, the walk back. Unlikely. Trump's advisors convince him that the market crash is bad for his poll numbers. He sends a tweet saying he loves the Canadian people, but leaders need to pay up. He restores the Tier 1 status quietly on a Friday night. The damage is done, but the crisis averts probability 20%. Trump hates admitting mistakes. Scenario B, the escalation likely. Trump sees the backlash and doubles down. He accuses Carney of interfering in US elections by squeezing the energy grid. He declares a national emergency at the northern border. He sends troops to the border crossings. This is the moment the undefended border becomes a militarized zone. Trade stops. The recession begins immediately. Probability 50%. This fits Trump's pattern. Scenario C, the rupture, the dangerous new world. Carney decides that the US is a broken empire. He accelerates the decoupling. Canada deepens ties with the EU and the Pacific. The US becomes an island, angry, isolated, and surrounded by former friends who no longer trust its word. The Arctic becomes a contested zone. The NORAD alliance officially dissolves. Probability 30% and rising every hour. History is full of alliances that ended. Rome and its provinces, Britain and its colonies, but they usually end over land or money or religion. It is rare, truly rare, for an alliance to end because of pure, unadulterated cruelty. Donald Trump wanted to look strong today. He wanted to show the world that he owes nothing to anyone. But in doing so, he revealed exactly what he is. He is a man who looks at a grave and sees a bad deal. He is a man who looks at an ally and sees a mark. Mark Carney didn't have to win this fight with words. He didn't have to raise his voice. He just had to stand next to the truth. The truth is that 457 Canadians didn't die for a participation trophy. They died for us. They died for you. And today, for the first time in our history, we didn't say thank you. We said, get out. If you are watching this and you feel that pit in your stomach, that feeling that something precious has been broken, you are right. The map didn't change today. The soul of the country did. I want to hear from you, especially if you served. Is the alliance worth saving, or has Trump finally gone too far? Do you stand with the 457, or do you stand with the insult? Put it in the comments. I'll be reading them. And subscribe, because tomorrow is going to be even harder. This is history.